Many of the world's cities and suburbs have hidden secrets you might never come across by accident. Architecture isn't everyone's specialist subject, but even the most expert eyes wouldn't notice some of these impressive fake houses. So get comfortable and stay tuned as we sneak a peek behind the curtain. Subway portal. Take a look at Jorah Lemon Street in Brooklyn and tell me what you see. An attractive row of brownstone townhouses with varying appreciations for Gothic stylings, right? Wrong. Those blacked out windows are concealing something much stranger than a vampirical tenant. In fact, no one has lived at 58 Jorah Lemon Street in over 100 years and likely never will, because it's not a home at all. This unsuspecting house nestled on a cobblestone street by the river is just an elaborate facade for a ventilation point and secret subway exit. The house was once a private residence in 1847, but when the first underwater subway tunnel connecting Manhattan and Brooklyn was constructed in 1908, it was acquired by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority of New York City and transformed completely. If you wander up to its locked doors and peek through the crack, you won't find a TV or plush couches peering back at you, but a dimly lit room with cold concrete flooring. Another telltale sign that all isn't as it seems is a red pipe near the front door which reads Jorah Lemon Street Tube 4-5 line. The house was originally fitted with industrial steel shutters designed to allow compressed vapors from the subway cars passing right below to escape like one big chimney. In 1999, it was eventually restored to appease disgruntled neighbors who nicknamed it the Billowing Shaft House, and nowadays you could pass by this secret bat cave without even realizing it. It also serves a second purpose as an emergency New York City subway exit. Unsuspecting commuters could find themselves ascending a grim set of spiraling metal stairs past utility boxes and into a windowless room with a door that leads you right onto the stoop of 58 Jorah Lemon Street, as if emerging from the underworld below. POSH pop-ups. Located just moments away from the expanses of Hyde Park in London is a duo of prestigious townhouses which definitely deserve a second look. Number 23 and 24 Leinster Gardens are London's own answer to Brooklyn's Shaft House and are one of the most well-known fake houses in the world, even featuring extensively in an episode of the UK TV drama Sherlock in 2014. Still, it would be virtually impossible to spot these dummy houses just by passing them on the street. If you look closely enough though, you'll notice a few glaring differences. The painted-on windows offer no view into the house beyond, and the doors have no handles or letterboxes. When the Metropolitan Underground Railway, the first of its kind, opened in the 1860s, deep tunnels were built to house the tracks and then recovered using the aptly named cut-and-cover method. The line between Paddington and Bayswater, which opened in 1868, passed directly through the affluent properties, so they were demolished to accommodate the tracks. The ensuing gap became a handy place for the steam-powered subway cars to disperse smoke and steam which were compressed while underground. Other residents of Leinster Gardens were understandably cheesed off that their posh neighborhood now had a visible scar down the center. So a bizarre agreement was reached. To maintain the character of the street, number 23 and 24 were re-erected as dressed-up dummy houses which are really just 5 feet wide. If you wander around the back, you'll find a gaping void which offers a view to the tracks below where trains still pass regularly. In the 1930s, a clever fraudster even made a small fortune by selling tickets to a false charity gala at 23 Leinster Gardens. Of course, when the guests turned up, they realized the house belonged to Mr. N.O. Body. SHAM Suburbia. Creating a fake house that can blend into its real-life surroundings is one thing, but dreaming up an entire false neighborhood is a completely different ballgame. That's exactly what happened during the throes of World War II in 1944, when the US government decided to take every measure to conceal their state-of-the-art Boeing manufacturing Plant 2 from possible Japanese bombers flying overhead. Famous Hollywood set designer John Stewart Detley was hired to help hide the plant from its would-be attackers, and the result was dubbed the Boeing Wonderland. The picture-perfect fake neighborhood was made using classic film techniques. The ground was made of burlap and canvas, while the grass and trees were created using chicken feathers, spun glass, and chicken wire. Pretty convincing, right? The houses were built from wood and were only 4 feet tall, just large enough to look real from above. and the streets had some pretty on-the-nose names like Synthetic Street and Burlap Boulevard. In total, the neighborhood covered 26 acres of land, and just below its plush lawns, some 30,000 men and women were constructing around 300 B-17 bombers per month. To keep up appearances, the neighborhood was even populated by actors, and promotional footage of residents lounging about in luxury was released to the public. Sadly, the Boeing Wonderland was demolished after falling into decay in 2010, so don't start packing your moving boxes just yet. Hydro houses. Believe it or not, one of the most abundant places in the world for fake houses is Toronto, which is home to at least 90 stealthy structures. From the outside, they look like any other building in the neighborhood, from quaint family homes like the one at 640 Millwood Road to Georgian colonial houses like 555 Spadina Road. But not one has ever opened its doors to potential buyers. The explanation is simple, but no less strange. These faux residencies are nothing more than well-camouflaged electrical substations converting raw, high-voltage electricity into a voltage low enough to distribute throughout the city. The story goes that when the utility company Toronto Hydro was established in 1911, the same year massive new generators at Niagara Falls first lit up the downtown streets, it became apparent that a network of substations was needed to complete the emerging power grid. There was one small problem though, as Toronto citizens were not overly keen on having massive power stations plunked in the middle of their familiar neighborhoods. As a result, hundreds of substations were designed by architects to blend in seamlessly with their surroundings. Many of the original substations, like the one at Glengrove Avenue nicknamed the Castle, tended towards historic grandeur until post-World War II when a more saltbox style was favored. Nowadays, many of these Toronto transformers are disused for various reasons, including one unfortunate instance where one went up in flames. But many still remain. In some cases, industrialization has left them behind, and stations like 353 Eglinton Avenue now stick out like a sore thumb. Military chalets. Switzerland is renowned for its stunning scenery, so you probably wouldn't think twice about coming across a romantic little chalet like this one on a chilly hike. You might even want to drop in for a warm drink. There'd be no answer if you tried though, because no one's home. And no one has occupied this chalet or some 250 others of its kind since the Second World War. You'd never guess, but these quaint cottages are actually abandoned military bunkers which used to house a bevy of top-of-the-range weaponry during a time when aerial reconnaissance and espionage was rife. Most of these pretty houses actually have 7-foot thick walls and hidden features like grenade-throwing holes. A special team of theater designers and artists were hired to camouflage the fortified bunkers so that they could easily deceive a casual observer at a minimum distance of 20 meters. Each one is finished with delicate paintwork and wooden shutters, but take a closer look and you'll find that many are strangely narrow and the net curtains are really just painted on. You'd be forgiven for failing to notice these things though, because these beguiling structures even remained a military secret from Swiss residents until a photographer named Christian Schwager released a project titled Fake Chalets in 2004. Schwager captured over 100 of these disused historical enigmas, and one, named Villa Rose, was later restored and opened to the public in 2006 as a military museum. French Fakery. The next fake house on this list may never have been found if it weren't for a work of fiction, and a novel by Italian philosopher Umberto Eco titled Foucault's Pendulum. Two characters talk about a house in Paris with a secret. Eco writes, "People walk by and they don't know the truth, that the house is a fake. It's a facade, an enclosure with no room, no interior." Intriguing stuff, right? Thankfully, some of the more curious-minded set about tracking down this mysterious house and identified it as Building 145, located on Rue Lafayette in the 10th Paris arrondissement. On first glance, nothing seems amiss. Its windows match those either side of it, the door is there, and there's even a balcony too. But no building waits behind it. Much like Brooklyn's fake brownstone and the deceptive houses at Leinster Gardens, this desirable Parisian home is nothing but a ventilation flue created to accommodate the French metro. A satellite view of the building reveals its big secret. The pretty face is nothing but a front for the gaping hole to the underground below. Also in the capital is what appears to be a tiny abode stuck on the corner of a street. But what is it really? A secret entrance to the metro for the most time-savvy commuters? Unfortunately, this facade is just a trompe l'oeil, or optical illusion, randomly installed by artist Julian Berthier one Saturday morning in 2009. Over a decade later, the address, which takes up just 10 cubic centimeters of public space, still exists and is regularly maintained by city services. Pump House. Number 3215 Wayne Avenue, located in Raleigh, North Carolina, looks like the perfect spot to raise a family. Positioned on a sizable plot of land with no nosy neighbors. In reality, this house isn't really fit for anyone to live in. After all, there's no garage, no driveway, no mailbox, or even a path leading up to the heavy front door, which is permanently locked. There would be no point to trick-or-treating at this house on Halloween. Inside the spacious interior is actually a government-owned pump station which supercharges millions of gallons of water to flow uphill into the rest of the town. All you'll find behind those boarded-up windows is an array of noisy 70s seafoam green-painted machinery, which is probably why the house is so isolated. Of around 20 different pump stations in the city, this is the only one disguised as a residential property. But why is it playing dress-up? Well, the government designed it this way in 1978, mostly out of courtesy to the otherwise attractive neighborhood, and it's even been constructed using sound-dampening materials like cinder block instead of bricks and mortar. How thoughtful. Billion-dollar secret. Back in 1962, the sleepy town of Kachim, nestled in the slopes of the Mosel Valley in Germany, became one of the most unsuspecting hiding places in history. With the imminent threat of war and hyperinflation suddenly on the horizon, the German government became increasingly concerned about the safety of the entire national economy. Fearing the introduction of counterfeit money used to flatten the economy, the immediate solution was to order an emergency mass printing of the Deutschmark, West Germany's official currency. 15 billion German marks were produced in total, but the next big question was where exactly so much emergency cash could be safely stored. Eventually, a foolproof plan was hatched to build a fortified bank vault disguised behind a fallout bunker capable of withstanding a nuclear war, and government officials set their eyes on the ancient streets of Kachim for the job. More specifically, these two inconspicuous houses were selected as a prime location, and a 15,000 square foot bunker fitted with intricate air, electricity, and water systems was built 30 meters below the earth. To throw neighbors off the scent, residents were only told that a small fallout shelter was being built next door in the event of an atomic attack. To ensure they stayed tight-lipped, they were also warned that if they told other villagers about it, then there wouldn't be room for their families in the underground retreat. It seems like a little blackmail goes a long way, because the bunker remained a secret as money gradually started arriving through a network of secret tunnels in 1965. Far below these faux houses were massive steel vaults which required 3 different keys and a secret lock combination to be brought over by officials from Frankfurt. For 2 decades, employees entered the vault and painstakingly counted the money by hand, until the unused currency was eventually destroyed in 1988 and the bunker was vacated. Spare thought for those poor cash counters. Nowadays, the Buddhist Bank bunker has become a museum after being purchased for 500,000 euros in 2014, and you can take a peek inside one of the most deceptive houses in history. Which of these fake houses would you most like to visit? And do you know of any in your hometown? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.